Hello. Now imagine you're sitting at home watching TV, reading a book, or making dinner, and all of a sudden a hunter walks in and shoots you. Now, maybe he does this because he wants to mount part of your body on the wall. Maybe he does this because he thinks it's fun or because he can. This is what happens every day in the wild when animals are trophy hunted. Now, before we begin, let's start by defining what trophy hunting is. Macmillan Dictionary defines trophy hunting as the activity of hunting or killing animals in order to display part or all of their bodies as trophies. Trophy hunting is something that's been happening for many years, and it has both positive and negative aspects to it. But today we're going to be focusing on the negative aspects. In particular, I'm going to be talking to you about 3 negative aspects, which are the ethics behind it, the way it disturbs populations, and the economic disadvantages that it presents. After researching this topic for many weeks, I come to you today as an avid animal lover and supporter of their rights with the hopes that after listening to me, you can take away these 3 negative aspects. So let's first take a look at the ethics behind it. Now, when people think of trophy hunting, they think that the animals are shot and killed instantly, and that's it. But in reality, sometimes they're actually shot and not killed, but left to die in pain over the course of many days. Some of these animals are actually animals that experience grief. Alistair Gunn, in his article, Environmental Ethics and Trophy Hunting, explains how elephants in particular are a group of animals that experience mourning. What this means is that when a member of their tribe dies, they experience a period of grief and sadness the same way that we as humans would experience grief and sadness. He also states that even trophy hunters acknowledge that it causes avoidable suffering. Now, if you look at these images with the hunters proudly posing with their trophies, you would think what I just said doesn't make much sense, because why would they look so proud if they're acknowledging that what they are doing is causing suffering? The other aspect of the ethical debate is the environmental ethics perspective. Chelsea Batavia, in her article, The Elephant Head in the Room, A Critical Look at Trophy Hunting, points out that supporters say it's an essential ecological function, but in reality it actually increases pressure on wildlife. Gunn supports this theory by saying that hunting poses a great threat to biodiversity and the gene pools. This is because hunters tend to target dominant males and even target knowingly endangered species. So now that we've looked at the ethics, we're now going to move on to the populations. Trophy hunting affects a species' ability to grow their population. Like I just said, hunters tend to target males, not females. This is because of their high-quality secondary sex characteristics. These traits help them father more offspring and better quality offspring, such as being big, strong, being good hunters, etc. Helen Briggs, in her article, Trophy Hunting Removes Good Genes and Raises Extinction Rates, says, quote, research suggests that removing even 5% of high-quality males risks wiping out the entire population for species under stress in an already changing world. Now, if you look at this chart, which is a little outdated, so the numbers would probably be higher now, you can see, for example, that there's 250 lions killed each year in Tanzania. So this means if 5% of these, or 250 lions, were high-quality males, that you're risking wiping out the entire species because they cannot properly reproduce high-quality offspring. The Negative Population Growth Organization in 2019 found correlation between human population growth rates and wide-scale animal extinction. What this basically means is that as our population grows, we're further intruding on the lands that originally belonged to the animals. Gunn supports this by saying that endangered species are already at risk from habitat destruction, human disturbances, and climate change, and trophy hunting is only further putting these animals at risk of going extinct. So now that we've looked at the ethics and the population disruptions, we're going to lastly look at the economic disadvantages that trophy hunting presents. Now, a famous argument from pro-hunters is there are many economic benefits to the nations that support it, but this is grossly exaggerated to work in their benefit. In an article by Dr. Cameron K. Murray, He points out that pro-hunting groups such as Safari Club International claim it produces up to 53,000 jobs per year. But actually, it only produces 7,500 to 15,500 jobs each year. The Humane Society International supported this claim in 2019 by saying of the 2 million available jobs in these nations, that hunting only makes up 0.78%, and that non-hunting jobs employ 130 times more people each year than hunting jobs do. Murray also says that these same hunting groups claim that hunting boosts their ecotourism, which brings in more money for economies in need. But in reality, tourism on average is only 0.1% from hunting, which isn't enough to sustain any economy. If we look at this chart, which explains how the local communities get very little, you can see that from about here down, so approximately 6% is what the nations get from the hunting, and the other 94 is expenses such as operating expenses for the hunters, wages, all of that. So the 94% is what is going towards doing the hunting, and 6% is what the nations are getting. The Humane Society International also pointed out that some of these nations that claim they're so desperate for tourism are also the same nations killing off animals necessary for popular attractions such as eco-safari tours. If you're going to kill off the animals necessary for bringing in tourists, how do you expect to continue to do this? So today we've looked at the ethics behind it, the disruption in population growth, and the economic trouble that trophy hunting can pose to nations that allow such a widely debatable sport to take place. Whether or not you agree with hunting, I want you all to remember that Angus Taylor once said, "There are circumstances in which the killing of a human being may be justified, but to mount this person's head on a wall is usually not acceptable." So, if it wouldn't be acceptable to do this to a human, is it any more acceptable to do it to an animal? Thank you. Here's my sources.